Let's get all sorted. I'm James.
And I'm Jeff. Today we're going to talk about Lego people.
Don't we always talk about Lego, man? As always, check out breakingdads.com for links to images or videos that we're going to talk about here. There's always lots of good visual stuff out there.
Yes. If you like pictures and you like the internet, you'll like breakingdads.com.
That's the best sell for us.
I thought I wanted to jazz it up a little there. Yeah. So, we're talking about Lego people.
Yes.
Man. And, so Lego's been in the business of making bricks for a very long time, but they've also been in the business of making miniaturized humans that people can play with their bricks for a very long time.
Longer than I thought.
Yeah, longer than most people thought. The very first people to appear in Lego sets date back to 1956.
And what were those guys?
Well, they released a little set of bicycles and motorcycles that had people on them.
Right, and those ones don't look like... I mean, it doesn't look like Lego.
No, in any way, shape, or form.
No.
It's very different.
Like a Cracker Jack toy.
Yeah, they're basically just little plastic models that have little, I don't even know what to call them, like bracers on the bottom. Like things, so they stand upright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-kickstand.
Yeah, and I guess it looks okay next to the die-cast cars they used to have.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Yeah, contextually they make sense.
Yeah. But it is weird. Now, one of the cool things about them is you used to be able to get them cheap online. They're climbing up there in price now, but they used to be really cheap. One of the reasons for that is they glued them all in the boxes when they sold them, just on the bottom. So when people took them out of the box, they'd have paper and glue stuck to the bottom of them.
Right.
So they were almost always sold as used, even when they were brand spanking new, never been played with, just taken out of the box. So that was fun. And the other fun thing about them is they were hand painted, but not at the Lego factory.
No?
They were painted by stay-at-home moms.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a guy whose job it was to go around once a week and collect up all the finished models by these women that wanted some pocket money.
Yeah.
Little extra money. And then he'd drop off new ones. And they provided them with paint, but they didn't provide them with any guides on how they should paint them.
Right.
So there's tons of color combinations.
Oh, that's awesome.
Of these, yeah. So even when you buy the set, you didn't even know what colors you were getting in the box.
So it's Avon, Lego, Avon.
Yes.
Like, what a weird little side gig.
Lego lady
I
calling.
wonder how they sold that to people. Like, did they put an ad out or?
I would imagine.
Hey,
yeah.
you want to paint little miniatures?
Yeah.
That's.
You need something to do during the day.
I wonder if that was a common thing in the toy industry in general.
I don't know.
idea.
I haven't seen. I haven't
No
heard
idea.
of anyone else doing that, but
Yeah.
it makes sense because why bring people in house? Now, in 1960, they brought it all in house,
Right. Okay.
and the reason they brought it all in house was the quality
control.
Yeah, it was all over the place. So eventually, they figured, hey, let's just train people to do it and do it the right way.
Right.
And so that's what they did. The other fun thing about these sets is they were only ever sold in Europe and Australia, but none of them were available in North America. So if you look in North American garage sales, you're never going to find it, probably.
Right.
Unless it's a dedicated Lego collector's estate sale.
Yeah.
But in Europe, you can find them. So good times there.
Yeah.
So once they got tired of producing little guys on bicycles and motorcycles, they went with a very Lego solution from 1965 to 74. If you wanted Lego people, you had to build them out of bricks.
Right.
So that's fun. It's another thing to build. A lot of Samsonite put out a lot of these what they call doll sets in larger, tall, skinny boxes. And those were available in the USA and Canada. Lego themselves put out regular box-style ones.
There's not much you can do with these.
I mean, they looked good. I mean, they were fun little models, but there was no play features on them, right?
No.
You built them, and you're like, that's a pirate.
Yeah.
There's my pirate. It's 3 times as tall as my Lego house.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you can't really play with that. I mean, it's
No.
just-
No, I think the idea was just like it's like a 3D version of a paper doll. You build it, and That's it.
Was that their? Oh, the girls will like this. This is a cozy doll.
But
You
again,
can
because remember, 65, 74, it wasn't really boys, girls. Like the
right.
same set would
Yeah,
make
yeah.
a ballerina
That's
and would
true.
make a pirate,
Yeah.
right? So,
That's a long run. So you got the first run is like 9 years, and then
yeah,
this run is also like 9 years. So
yeah,
before they decide they're going to actually do something else. So I mean, they see how did it do? This
they
big.
sold. I mean, they didn't sell as well as the building sets, the cars and the houses, but they sold well enough.
Huh.
Yeah.
So I guess manufacturing technologies eventually got better. I mean, that's probably part of it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So then
Yeah,
what is
or even just the ability to produce more specialized parts that you need. And so, yeah, in 1974, they introduced what some people call the homemaker figures, or what other people call the maxi figs. So,
Maxifigs sounds kind of awesome.
yeah, because they were larger figures. I have no idea where maxi came from, but somebody called it that in Lego, and that's what they got called.
Now these are the ones that look like Playmobil people,
Yeah, very similar, and they got the round head.
right?
Yeah, and that's basically what they were. They were a headpiece that you could put hair or a hat on, and then they had arms that could bend and rotate that were attached to a 2x2 brick. And then all the rest of the body was made out of Lego bricks again, but much smaller. And there's a lot of nostalgia for these too, because you had a lot of versatility in how you could build the lower half of the figure. So if it was driving a car, you could use a plate to make it look like it was sitting, and you could build various sized children as well. Most of the adults had two links in the arm, so they sort of had two elbows.
Right. So they were
Whereas-
like, hey, people want to play with these things.
Yeah, yeah, and then the kids would have shorter arms, so it's easier to differentiate them, and of course their height. So they were fun. They also were the first ever Lego figures to have a dedicated race. So
Right.
most of the maxi figures were yellow, just
Right,
like
yeah.
the later minifigures. But in 1977, and I apologize for having to say this out loud, they produced a set that they called Red Indians.
So they were going up against the BB gun kind of thing.
They had cowboys
Yeah.
as
I mean,
well.
that was still a thing in the 70s.
Yeah.
There was no political correctness or sensitivity, and the cowboy Indian thing was still a vestigial thing.
Yeah.
I think in the play space.
Absolutely.
So that makes sense that Lego would have gotten into this.
But yeah, they made them with a red skin tone instead of the yellow skin tone.
And curiously, Europe is known for having an odd fascination with Native Americans because they don't have Native Americans.
Yeah.
So I remember having an anthropology teacher once. He was obsessed with Native American iconography, like in play form and things like that, because he didn't have it.
Yeah, it makes sense because all of the images they got were sort of the idealized,
Yeah. The kind of
revisionist history.
what's that word? Kind of like the noble savage
Yeah,
idea that
exactly.
kind of got perpetuated. So yeah, good that was in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then what did they go from there? Did they go into more races, or they were like, no, we're going to stop there?
That was it. They stopped with that one.
Okay.
Thank goodness, because I think Lego would have a very different history if they
Yeah.
came out with another set. That would be, yeah.
Thank you, Lego.
Yeah, so those guys ran from 1974, the maxi figures started, and they ran until 1982. During that time, 1975, so a year after the maxi figures debuted, they debuted what a lot of people call the Legoland minifig, or I like to call the proto minifig. So this looks similar in size and scale to the minifigure we know today, except it didn't have any arms or legs. It had sort of a what looked like it could be the starts of arms on the side, but it was molded in. They didn't move, so it looked like everybody was walking around with their hands in their pocket.
It's like they look like board game pegs.
Yeah,
like wooden pegs from a toy, like another board game.
Yeah, you could call them Lego Meeple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could totally use these in a board game.
And all the heads also were blank and unpainted. So that's fun. Now, one of the cool things is they did have a bunch of different hats that you could put on them, and all of the hats are compatible with the current minifigure. So it was the exact same sized head as used in the modern minifig, but with no printing on it. They did in that terribly named Red Indian set, they did use a Legoland minifig as a baby. that one of the maxi figures is holding in that. And you'll see the Legoland minifig, the proto minifig, show up in later sets as statues and things like that, where they're trying to represent a person but with less detail. So those ran from 75 to 79. So they stayed in production for a while, even though they weren't necessarily as popular as what comes up next, the modern minifig. Born the same year as me, 1978.
Ooh, classic.
Yeah, now everybody knows how old I am.
Terrible.
It's that old.
Yeah. Well, no wonder he remembers the...
Yeah. So the modern minifigure, I'd say, was a success from the very first time it came out in set number 600, the police car, which we have a link to on the website, breakingdads.com.
And I wonder why they chose the police car set. Like when they thought,
I wonder that too,
we
yeah.
got to launch something here. I wonder if it was because it's one figure, and if it was just because it really was you need almost an ideal, like a representative form for, the police car by itself is not interesting.
Yeah.
You could have had the construction perker, you could have had a family peoples. Maybe they just wanted to do one to test the market.
Maybe. It's
it's
still
interesting.
different because, the set itself, the police car wouldn't actually fit a minifigure in it.
Right.
Yeah. So you get a police car that you build, and then a guy to stand beside it with his nice Lego smile and wave.
Yeah.
And the face had the printing of the classic Lego face with the smile. But the torso itself didn't have any printing. They gave you a sticker to put on it to have his policeman uniform with the buttons and the badge.
They spent all that money tooling up to get the heads printed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, and also heads, they're like, oh, we can use these in every set.
Exactly.
Whereas a police body...
They could just print out colored bodies and then sticker them. Why not? Mm-hmm. That makes sense from an inventory point of view.
Yeah.
That'd be and they also didn't know how well they would do.
I would imagine, yeah. But it did well. When they were arriving at that design, they did go through a lot of different prototypes for both the males, but also the female minifigures. They went through a ton of different prototypes because they were trying to figure out how to put a skirt on this thing.
Right. Well, women in pants?
Yeah.
That's crazy, Jeff.
In 1978, and they had some crazy ones. They had ones where it was like, well, it's okay if the women can't bend their legs or move their legs individually, right?
Yeah, it's funny watching them try to read their market. Like to think, okay, should we assume the Americans, they are behind and they will want the skirt on the, like, what do you, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting, these manufacturing decisions or these design decisions.
But I think in the end, and I would imagine this was purely a manufacturing decision, they decided just to go with the legs for the boys and the girls. Probably because you don't want to have to make up another mold.
Absolutely. Well, if they're going the stickers and the torsos and the one, I mean, they've just saved themselves gajillions of dollars.
Exactly. So that was fun. And like we discussed in our Pirates podcast previously, all the Lego minifigures they released up to 1989 had the same classic smile expression. And then the Pirates came and added beards and eye patches and things like that.
And that's a good 11-year run again.
Yeah.
It's like every decade there's something they're like, okay, let's shake it up. What are we
It
going to do?
does seem that way. Although from the 90s on, there was a lot of innovation pretty quickly. In 1990, they introduced the Ghost minifig, which was their first glow-in-the-dark piece. And that ghost is the same looking ghost that they use right up to the Lego movie when Vesuvius gets killed, comes back as a ghost on a string. In 1993, they had their first female space minifigure. So that took a while.
Yeah.
And they also had introduced the first fabric cape that year. In 95, they introduced the Lego skeleton that had a different body and limbs than the regular minifigures. 2001, the first double-sided face print. So you can now swap facial expressions on the fly. In 2003, they released the first realistic skin tones because they did an NBA set. And they thought, hey, let's not have all the NBA players be in yellow.
Let's mix it up for the teams.
This thing's barely recognizable as Shaq as it is.
Yeah, right.
You do it in yellow.
And Shaq's like, I'm not putting my name on this thing if it's yellow.
Yeah, so they did that, and then Star Wars. So finally, Lando didn't look like the same as Han Solo. So that was a good thing. And then 2010, they released the first minifigure collectible series, which I think we can say was a success, as they've released 2 or 3 a year since then. So, yeah, to give you an idea of how minifigures have grown since 1978, when they came out with it in 78, they had 41 different minifigures. They made 41 different minifigures in 1978. In 2014, they made 566 different minifigures.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's minifigures. That's not Duplo guys. That's not, the Lego Friends mini dolls. That's just your classic minifigure. 566 in 1 year.
Was it like 1.5 a day?
Well, that's just different designs. That's not how many of those were in the sets.
Right.
Yes.
No, yeah, that's crazy though. The amount of design work.
Oh yeah.
They're just constantly knocking out minifigures.
Yeah, it's they have entire teams dedicated to designing a minifigure, and they have lots of them. So between 1975 and 2010, they produced 3,655 different minifigures, or about 104 a year. After that, since the minifigure collectible series came out, as well as just Lego exploding in general, so from 2011 to today, so in a 5-year span, they made 1,836 different minifigures.
Man.
So around 367 a year. So bit of a change.
Yeah.
Between 2006 and 2015, they made over 1 billion different minifigures. They manufactured over 1 billion minifigures. To give you some perspective, the human population on Earth only grew 790 million over that same time period. Yeah. So
it makes sense that our little tiny masters would overtake us at some point.
That's what, like 20% faster than humans?
I don't know. Math.
Yeah.
It's faster.
Yeah.
It's a bigger
I guess
number,
they have the advantage of not dying. The death rate for minifigures is probably much lower.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's why they'll win. And the Lego factory in Denmark, it's capable of producing around 15,000 minifigures an hour.
An hour.
That's
yeah.
And that's one factory.
I think that explains a lot about that, that shift from around the late 80s, early 90s, is as manufacturing, it'd be interesting to look in the history of manufacturing bit and see when certain adaptation or modifications happened or advancements that allowed the faster manufacturing, better injection molding, quicker printing on your bits. That must have been something that allowed them to really scale outward. Because I can't. Before that, it couldn't have been. That was just what was holding them back.
I imagine the production
it's really ramped up. I mean, that's remarkable.
Like for sure, every year printing has gotten better for Lego. They can print on more parts. They start printing on legs. They start printing on arms. Like in 2010, in the minifigure collectible series, there was only one figure that had printing on the arms. And then in the last series, over half of them had printing on the arms.
Right.
So definitely advances in technology are helping them.
Layered colored printing.
Yeah.
Like things like that. I wonder when that came in.
I bet you could. I bet you can find it on minifigures, though. Yeah, I would
let us
say
know if you want to dig through it. Someone out there in that land.
Yeah, if you study every minifigure released every year, which is possible. There's a beautiful link.
See a lot of.
You can see the technological advancements year to year for sure.
Yeah,
and that's pretty impressive. So they're doing well. The minifigure.
That's that's not slowing down.
Yeah, no, and I don't see it for a long time. However, Lego being Lego, they produced the minifigure in 1978, and they kept making it better, but they didn't stop there. They said, you know what?
Yeah.
Different kids want to play with different things.
Right.
So in 1979, they introduced one of what I think has got to be the best sets they've ever done, the lines ever.
Yes.
The Fabuland line.
This is pure. David Lynch was hired by Lego.
Yeah.
It seems like. It is the weirdest. I love these.
Because what they did is they're like, hey, let's put giant animal heads on minifigure-like bodies.
Yeah.
And maybe put hats and stuff on them. I don't know. It could be fun. Who doesn't want a bear that's also a policeman? Or a dog that's a firefighter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wish they would redo these. These are so
Me too.
cool.
I feel like this is something, like, just give us a collectible minifigure that's a Fabuland one if you want to throw back.
Yeah.
I don't know that they will because, again,
probably
the
not.
molds are probably gone.
But still, yeah, I like the idea. It's not attached to anything. It's just its own weirdness,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
And they look creepy altogether. And
They
in like
do.
in a fun, cute way.
I like remember when we were kids, you'd have those plastic little farm animals.
Yeah.
Those really cheap things. Then they started, there's that other manufacturer that makes it, higher quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there was this other thing and they looked at it and went, we could do that with
You can do that.
Lego.
Yeah. But it was nice. So they're like I said, very similar in look to minifigures, but they had, of course, the larger heads. So the figure itself is about 6 bricks tall, whereas a minifigure with no hats about 4 bricks tall. So a little bigger, and it's almost all in the head. They had fixed hands, so the hands didn't rotate in at the wrist,
Right.
but they did rotate, have the arms move. That's nice. And the legs are a little more round, more cylindrical than the square minifigure look. And you couldn't change the parts.
Right.
Right? You couldn't. The head's attached. The legs are attached. So they're similar but different. But really weird. If I was gonna do like a brick film of a horror movie,
Oh, yeah.
this is definitely the line I would invest in.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. If Wes Anderson did a Lego animated horror movie,
Yeah.
this would be it.
Yeah.
It would have a nice indie soundtrack and animals going after each other.
That would be wonderful.
So, 79 to 89, Fabuland. In 1986, they introduced the Technic figures. And they first came out in the Arctic Action line.
I like these less than Fabuland.
No, they do what they're supposed to do,
They
which
do.
is integrate with Technic, which tends to have a
They're-
larger scale.
They're really weird looking, though.
They are. They're like somebody said, they looked at a G.I. Joe and said,
Yeah.
we could do that cheaper.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I have. It's like
Yeah.
a weird G.I. Joey kind of like 80s toy.
Yeah, but
80s
with the
toy with weird movability.
Roundy Lego head still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe like a G.I. Joe and a Playmobil had a baby.
And Pinocchio was somehow involved.
Somehow, I don't know. But they're larger than the standard minifigure. They have elbow and knee joints, so easier to pose in the Technic sets. They were already assembled and not meant to come apart, although you could force them apart if you wanted to. And they were nice in that they had connections for both the standard Lego system bricks and the Technic parts.
Right.
And then Technic pegs could fit in the hands. So again, they were designed to work with Technic. They worked with Technic. There are people out there that absolutely love them.
Yeah.
I look at them and I go, meh.
I go, Fabuland. Again, it's hard to...
Go back and click on those pictures some more.
Yeah.
Yes. Which unfortunately you might have nightmares of tonight because you
Oh.
looked at too many pictures of them.
Very welcome nightmares.
Yeah. So those kind of, what I say, they went from 86, they went all the way up to 99. They were still making the Technic figures. And then they stopped. So that's fun.
Yeah. I don't even remember those.
Again, they didn't come in every Technic set.
Yeah.
They were very specific, sort of action-y oriented Technic sets. Whereas Technic nowadays is mostly still technical. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of trucks and machinery,
Exactly.
those sort of things.
Yeah, it's
So
more about the mechanics of the build as opposed to play in the same way.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the next couple ones we're going to talk about, actually all the rest we're going to talk about, you would have heard of if you watched. You can't watch these podcasts; these are audio podcasts.
try.
You can try. If you go,
Stare at a wall and imagine.
if you go to breakingdads.com and click on the links, you can look at those whilst we're talking, and then it's like watching, right?
Totally.
Yeah. It's 2015. We got this technology thing nailed. Anyway, if you listened to our Lego and the Trouble with Girls podcast,
Yes.
you would be familiar with these. So good luck to you.
Yeah.
We get to look at them again. So in 1994, Lego introduced Belleville. I said it right. And these were similar in size to the Technic figures, but without the ability to attach the Technic parts. And I don't want to spend too much more time on them.
No.
They were kind of creepy, dollhouse, weird figures that
Yeah.
towered over the regular minifigures.
Yeah.
In 97, they introduced the Scala Dolls line. This was Lego's most overt attempt to take down Mattel's Barbie. I don't even know if this counts as Lego, really. They didn't attach to anything.
It has a logo.
Yeah, there's a Lego logo in
I
it,
think
although,
that's about as good as we get.
yeah, and let's move on.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, you're
introdu-
talking about nightmares, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
I
the
don't know.
Fabuland.
That's true. Some of those Belleville ones are just scary with like the deadness behind their eyes and the like, play with me, mommy. Look, I don't know. I'm scared of them. And then in 2012, as you may or may not have heard, Lego introduced the Friends mini doll. So it's important. This is not a minifigure.
Right.
This is a mini doll.
It is a very mini doll.
Yes. With 4 points of articulation.
Yes.
And yeah, so they're taller, more detailed than minifigures. The legs can't move independently, so they can either stand or they can sit. So that's good. The hands can't rotate, so sometimes holding objects is weird for them. Like they have a guitar, but they have no way to play the guitar.
Right.
They can really be more roadies than rock
Isn't
stars.
it like most people?
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That is very real. And they did, from the get-go, these guys had realistic skin tones. So...
And they don't all have skirts, so that seems
they don't
like a win.
exactly. They don't have skirts, and they have boys in it too. They have boy mini dolls. So that's good.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, I think Lego at some point realized it's all about the minifigure.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, Legos over the years has sort of shifted to a higher emphasis on minifigures. And is that going to, or has it changed the way that kids play with Lego?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. My kids have a bazillion minifigures, and the way they play with them is it's mixed. My daughter will just do a thing where it's ponies and minifigures and other, they're integrated into the overall Tea Party phenomenon, without any Lego context.
The non-political Tea Party, right?
Yeah.
She's not like lining up the ponies and the minifigures and saying,
not.
let's return to a gold standard.
No, she's not a libertarian. There's so she uses them that way, and they're just like they are like little dolls.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And then, my son builds caves and weird things and plays with them in there. And I don't know, how are your kids?
My oldest one, and maybe it's because he's oldest, is really interested in the licenses and wants the Ninjago characters more than the vehicle that it comes with.
Right. Okay.
And wants the Minecraft characters more than
they got pretty cool hats and stuff.
Yeah, lots of fun accessories. Yeah. So he seems to be most interested in, like, he'll pick sets based on the figures in them.
Right, okay.
Whereas my other kids still pick sets based on the builds. So I'd say there's definitely a difference there.
Yeah.
It's certainly changed the way Lego markets the material, right? Because, if you look back at the early Lego sets, there's minifigures in them, but you don't really know what minifigures they are until you open up the box and start building.
Right.
Whereas the new sets, especially the licensed ones, there'll be a cutout that shows you exactly which minifigures are in this set. And if you look at some of the superhero sets, really uninspired builds, but they know they're going to sell because they've got this minifigure that's never been made before.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you, like on the Star Wars ones, they'll say, new on the minifigures. There'll be 6 minifigures in the box, and 2 of them will have new. Saying they haven't appeared in any other set ever before. So if you want them,
their market.
You got to buy this set.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they're the worm on the hook.
Definitely, I'd say more so than a lot of other things. So when new sets come out, you see complaints on the message boards of I got to buy this stupid $100 set because I need these 2 minifigures.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's.
And also now when you go to the counter at even a non-Lego store, you might see a big box of minifigure bags.
Yeah, and that's something that Lego wouldn't have produced a few decades ago when they were very vehemently a building block toy company that happened to make minifigures.
So now they're in the collectible. They're like Kid Robot or some other, like vinyls. There's all these other weird collectible markets that they're kind of brushing up against in a way.
They're right in there. They're in the stores right up beside them for sure. And it's been very successful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, great for the kids because now my kids have a whole ton of sort of specific generic minifigures.
Right.
It's I like to look at the minifigure collectible series like that. They're generic in that it's not named people.
Yeah.
But they have very specific accessories, making them a little more fun to play with.
So good for kids and good for Jeff.
Yeah. Bad for Jeff's bank account.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations, Lego, on making something as cool as the minifigure, even if it might have taken a few tries and you weren't completely sure what you had when you first had it.
And I don't have any money left to buy the tinned food and water I'm going to need for when the Lego revolution begins and the little ones take over the world. Because my house will be filled with the enemy.
Yeah, that's the problem. Although it would take a lot of minifigures to take you down,
Would it?
Unless they just slide under your feet. If the first thing they do is sabotage your shoes,
that's it. They're
they
going to
got
throw
it. Yeah.
one blocks around and just, same color as the floor.
Yep.
Throw brown bricks everywhere. We'll get them down, boys.
But until the revolution comes,
Yes.
I guess we'll just keep recording this podcast.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
All right. I've been James.
And I'm still Jeff.
And we will see you next week.